Ladies and gentlemen, guys, gals, non-binary pals, welcome back to Fully Charged. This is episode 60. There's a lot of episodes fully charged at this point. You want to marathon them? Don't do it, because most of them aren't relevant. My name is Wando. I'm joined here. JMax is somehow here, production once again. We're going to cover week 4. To do that, we've got Bumfries, and we've got special guest, player extraordinaire, guy who takes the worst Ubers in the world and makes them work anyway. Ams is here as well. How are we doing?
Doing very good. Glad to be here.
How about you, Bum? How are we feeling?
I'm doing great.
Nice. All right. Abs, tell us. We're a little bit late. I'm gonna be honest. This was supposed to start 15 minutes ago. What went wrong? What happened?
Yeah, I was making some lasagna for me and my wifey, and then I had like 40 minutes when I started, but I cut my finger when I was shredding the cheese, so then I got blood everywhere. I'm like trying to like not have the blood go into the lasagna, so I'm having to like wipe off my finger every 5 minutes. And yeah, the lasagna's in the oven now, so hopefully nothing burns down. But I apologize to everybody.
Unfortunately, Am's not cooking.
Not very good at cooking now.
All right. I think we just jump into it. We had a lot of games this week, actually. Starting off, we had a week 2 game. In week 4, we had SHADOWWIZARDMONEYGANG versus NOOBPANZER. This was 2 maps, all 6 points, ended up going the way of NOOBPANZER. Bumfries and I actually ended up casting it. I'm gonna be honest, I completely forgot what the individual map results are for the game. Pulling them up now. It was a 3-0 on Metalworks and a 5-0 on Snakewater. Bumfries, how do you feel about this game?
Yeah, it wasn't a good game. I knew Panzer were just like, clearly better on both maps. Coming into the season, I expected SHADOWWIZARDMONEYGANG to be like the 6th place team, but now I'm feeling more like SVIFT could beat them this week. But we'll get onto that later. But that was like such a terrible offie that I really have little hope for them in the future.
There's just a lot of weird idiosyncrasies from this that game as well. You had like Geordie decides randomly that he's gonna run out and play on direct hit for half the game. I called it a troll pick or like a tilt direct hit, and then Dowie in the chat kept pointing out that maybe it's actually just serious. That Geordie might just think that direct hit is good. Not sure about that one.
I think it's partly that, but I mean, clearly the fact that he keeps going on direct hit towards the end of games that are already lost probably shows that it's more of a maybe he's like testing it out legitly, but in a real environment, but only once he knows it's not going to be throwing the game because the game's already thrown. But still, it's like if he thought it was fully legit, he'd be on it from the start. So
yeah, I don't know. They seemed in their game versus you guys, Ems, they've relied a lot on Geordie getting in, bombing in, getting Condog down pretty much immediately, especially on that Granary game. How are you feeling about these Shadow Wizards? They had this game, NOOBPANZER wasn't very good. How are they feeling for you so far this season?
What, Mac team?
Yes.
Yeah, we play close with them in our official. I think they're good. They're one of those teams that kind of depends on if they show up on the day, you know? I think they have potential to be very good, and occasionally they have like very good results, but I think they still got a long way to go if they want to like contend playoff spots. I don't know if that's even possible anymore. But, yeah, they're good. What did you say? One of them used the direct hit, or?
Yeah, it was Geordie. He ran around with direct hit for like most of Snakewater and like half of Metalworks.
Yeah, no, I think the DH is actually a valid strat. Like my team has used it towards last quite a bit. I think it's pretty good because you can like insta-gip the gun with it, so you can just get rid of the sentry, and it's not like it's a useless weapon. Like if you hit with it, you can do a lot of damage from far away. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's like a legit thing they're trying, because we've used it a lot in scrims against them. I think not so much recently, but I'm pretty sure it's gonna be the new meta. It's a pretty powerful gun in like certain situations. I don't know if it's just trolling now.
It was weird. There was we have a singular clip we can play at some point. I think we're actually doing something different. So trying to fix my cam, but we do have a clip. We had a moment, an oopsie, a legendary moment from the one and only Mac, who really wanted to do this rollout. Unfortunately, just kind of got off to a bad start this mid. We're 2 rounds into it, and he just doesn't make it to mid. It was very unfortunate, and I think that kind of set the tone for the rest of the cast.
I mean, that's pretty early into the game. That's like 10 minutes in, and he dies on that mid. They lose the round instantly, and then I guess nothing happened for the rest of the 15 minutes because you said it was a 3-0 game on Metal, so I guess they lost that one pretty early, and then it just kind of petered out.
Yeah, it was a bit. I think I kind of took most of the wind out of their sails when that ended. It was a bit unfortunate. There's another game that the Shadow Wizards played this week. They had played their week 4 game versus Witness. Unfortunately, the only game evidence we have that this game was ever played was that. Unfortunately, are just 2 logs. We have reveal a 5-2 in like 20 minutes and another one on CP Sunshine of a 5-0 in 14 minutes. There's no STV. There's no nothing. There are no status screenshots.
Yeah, you said you can't find that on Domo's TF.
Nope.
I see Domo and Pappy in the chat. I hope they have the STV of it because they've already lost
in some
points.
trouble.
Yeah, to dropping STVs. If you get a second major warning, it's 3 points gone. So that's actually a pretty big deal. That's like a whole map getting deleted from your season.
What's with teams and not posting demos? What are the excuses?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I forgot to post like all of the demos as well. But then when we got the warnings for it, I was just like, okay, I'll just go get them. Because you can just get them. They're on demos.tf or serve me. You'll just go there and you just get them. So it should be pretty easy. I reckon they'll upload them sooner or later. I think the only case in which it would be a problem would be like TF2 Easy because they just play on their server always. But I think they're pretty responsible with their demos and they give them out and upload them when needed. So I don't really understand why anybody would not get the STVs. I haven't really figured that one out yet, but you know, they're out there.
Hopefully we find a way to get these STVs recorded for the history books of whatever someone cares out there wants to watch these games. Be nice to have STVs. I think Witness this week. I think we can pretty much conclude that they had basically for them a little bit of a bye week. Not really much to say on that front. They have an important game next week that we will be talking about later. But moving along, do have match you played yourself, Ams. You played against Swift this season. Really, honestly, quite a close gully wash game. How are you feeling after that official?
I mean, they're not a bad team. I mean, you say it's close. I guess so. I think we went like 3-0 up, 2-0 up, and then they came back a little bit. So I mean, I guess it's close, but we didn't really feel like we were in trouble at any point. Maybe the only moment in that game was like at the start of the second map when they went up 1 round on Reckoner. I guess that was kind of like, oh shit, like we need to fix the mid, and we didn't fix the mids really. We're still really bad on mids, but like the second map was really comfy, and the first mid or the first game was it looked close, I guess, the scoreline. But we felt in control the whole time, honestly. But they're a good team. Like, I'm pretty proud of how we played against them. Or not proud, but satisfied with it. Rather, I don't feel like oh, we should have rolled them. I think we played a pretty clean game with some mistakes against a team that's pretty good. Like, I think EDK really impresses me with like how he's playing now versus how he was playing in the scrims before the season. Like those players are not bad, and they have some standouts like EDK. So I wouldn't be surprised if they take points off some good teams, and I think we played pretty well against them. I have no problem with the way we performed, honestly.
All right.
Yeah, I think the mid-fight win rate was pretty much the only thing that SVIFT seemed to have going for them. Like as Amp said, the one time they were actually in the lead was for 1 round at the start of the second map, just based off of mid-fights pretty much. They were winning a lot of mid-fights on Gully too, but outside of that, it seemed not as close as the scoreline would suggest.
Yeah, I think especially that second map was not as close as the first. It was an interesting watch for sure. How are we feeling about Swift this season? I think we were very quick to peg them as sort of the bottom tier Prem team. Are we still sort of putting them towards the bottom? How are we feeling about these guys, Ems? Do you think they're good? How good are they?
I think they're better than Nati Noot, based on what I've seen. Even though Nati got some points against some team they should have got points against, right? They got points against for friends. So I still think Swift is better than Nati Noot. I think Swift could have they played Mac team yet? I don't think so.
That's this week.
No. Yep, they're playing
Yeah.
on Thursday. Pretty sure.
I would predict that to be a close game. I don't know if Swift can do it, but I'd say it's probably going to be a close game if Swift play like how I expect them to play. And I think they've improved at a pretty steady rate. Like what I've seen from Nati New is some improvement as well. But what I've seen from Swift is like to me it looks like a different team now than it was at the start of the season. Like at the start of the season, we weren't playing nearly as well as we do now, and we were like kind of rolling them in scrims. Like we were kind of like having a laugh at the fact that they were in Prem. Like yeah, this is no Prem team. Now I think they're going to prove themselves as a solid Prem team, and I want to see them do well. And they got some players I really like, and I'm looking forward to like continuing to see them improve. Like I'm a big EDK fan, so yeah, I'm a fan of that team, and I think they're better than Nati, and I think they could upset against Mac for sure. But I guess if they lose to Mac, then they're gonna be like bottom 2. But they could do well, I think.
What about you, Frank? Any thoughts on these guys?
I think I would probably put these guys in 8th. I think Natty Newt's better than them. I like what I see from Natty Newt, and I think they'll probably end up 6th. I definitely do think they've improved from the start of the season, and it's not like they're the meme 8th place team anymore. Like we were kind of expecting both SVIFT and Natty Newt to be like these teams should have just been in Div 1. But they've both definitely improved from there, but I think Natty Newt more so, and I think Swift's still probably going to end up 8th.
All right. I don't know. I'm gonna have to see the game we have coming up to really conclude. To be completely honest, I have no idea where to put these guys. They play a close game. They played some close games actually against the top teams. I think the NOOBPANZER game that he played stands out a little bit. I wonder if that's sustainable or not. I think some of that did come down to the map that they played. Well, we'll have to see. Talking about not NOOBPANZER, we did see them play this week. We saw them actually just yesterday play against Nati Noot, where Snakewater actually was really close for a lot of it. Most of the game, it was very, very close. And then, unfortunately, just towards the end, they kind of let it slip. I kind of felt like Nati Noot, they ran out of gas. They had some opportunities to push last with full ad, and unfortunately, they didn't kind of make it count, didn't make it stick, and the shocky diff was real. It felt like a lot of the time they were just kind of losing their DM bites in situations where honestly they should have won. But yeah, these NOOBPANZER guys, how are we firmly content with them being in the top 3? Obviously, I think they might even be sitting squarely in first place right now with how the points are working out, especially with Witness taking some penalty points on the tables at the moment. How good are these guys? Do you think they compare AMS, the top 2? TF2EZ, Witness?
Yeah. I think I kind of underestimated them before the season started. I underestimated their scouts maybe quite a lot. I think their scouts are pretty godlike, honestly, at times at least. Like Shockey's really kind of surprised me. So I think they contend the top teams for sure. I'm still like, I mean, I hate to say it because I don't want to because I've made the mistake of underestimating them once, but I'm still pretty comfortable that we'll figure out kind of their game and we'll beat them when it comes down to the playoffs. But I guess they'll probably be third because they beat us. They got 6 points. Maybe TF2EZ could choke against them because TF2EZ is like kind of shaky. But there's no way they're beating Witness, but they could put on a decent game against Witness. So yeah, I think they're. I guess you could say the top 3 right now, just because we lost to them. But I think come playoff time, I'm pretty confident we'll do well against them or we'll beat them, because they have some stuff that they do. They do a lot of flank busts, and the way Adiski plays, and you'll be pushing with some minor advantage, and your flank will just be getting crushed. We looked at this stuff really in depth with my team, and just try to get a good understanding of how they play. And I feel like it's this kind of play style that works the best with the surprise factor. It works the best when the other team is underestimating you, not really knowing properly what you do, all that stuff with the crits and the flank busts and aggression. Like obviously they're all mechanically very good, and I'm sure they're all like smart players too. But I think once we figure that out a little bit, and once the rest get used to playing against them, I still think their skill level is going to go like down. You know, they're going to be like less hard to deal with. Obviously, they still got like the crazy DM to like pull through and like win these fights. Like Adiski also surprised me a lot. Like I never thought of Adiski as like I did think of him as a top prem soldier, but not like so much recently. I didn't think he was like that crazy. He's actually mechanically super good, and he has super good timing, and like yeah, they're all good players. I'm still confident we'll beat them. I'm confident we're better. But yeah, they've had a good season, and I reckon they'll continue to play well for the foreseeable future. I think it's gonna be close with us and them in the playoffs. No matter what happens, it's gonna be close.
Yeah, I think they're gonna end up in third, at least at the end of the regular season as well. And I agree with Amps about what he said about Shocky. Shocky's been like super hit or miss for the last few seasons, where you just don't know if you're gonna get like a 5th place scout Shocky or like a top 2 scout Shocky. But he's been really like popping off this season. There's been some funny Adiski moments as well. That guy needs to put the fucking pickaxe away. I've seen him dying with the pickaxe out like 4 times trying to do funny stuff. He got like 1 kill from it once, I think. If Adiski can put the pickaxe away, maybe they beat TF2 easy. I was speaking to Hugo, and he says they're pretty confident that they can beat TF2 easy as well. So we'll see where they actually end up.
I think that's probably true. I'd rate him above TF2 easy, to be honest.
Why is that? What's the difference there? We'll talk about TF2 easy a bit more in a second, but why? What's the difference? What's the decision maker here for NOOBPANZER?
I think similar playstyles, but I think NOOBPANZER is better at the TF2 easy style than TF2 easy is right now. Like I think TF2 easy will step up, but I think recently they've struggled based on what I've seen. I think they've struggled. I think Yuho is a sick player, but I don't know. I don't think they've quite like found their groove yet. You know, like the way they had with Gazi. Like before the season, I would have said like Yuho is an upgrade, but like from what I've seen recently, like I would honestly be more if we had playoffs right now. I would probably rather face TF2 easy than the Voxy team based on like the recent results and how I feel about those teams. Like TF2 easy, similar styles, but TF2 easy I think is less effective and more predictable than the Voxy team with it. But I haven't really scrimmed. We haven't scrimmed the Voxy team that much recently. But you know, just based off the information I have right now, I'd actually put NOOBPANZER above them. I think.
I think this is going to be interesting. I think the game of the week, obviously, the game that if you need to watch one game from last week, you should probably go watch TF2 Easy versus 4Fence. It was really close. The Frenchies really took it, honestly, to TF2 Easy. And it was really close for a lot of the games. Just kind of was maybe a little bit more on the slow side. I think some of that comes down to playstyle, but some of it also just comes down to Gullywash last being a cool last point and both teams having exactly one strategy to try and break it. You just send players water and eventually maybe it works. Obviously, I think the highlights for both maps is Nubby going spy, being the champ. I think it's actually crazy. We have 2 insane spy clips from Nubby where like both of them are complete like casino plays. I don't know how he lives on either of these.
Yeah, the spy plays were crazy, and I think there's no way you can really look at this map from 4Fence and like not think that you've just thrown 3 points down the drain. Like they were so ahead in this one, and I don't know how they managed to choke it. This hope is so stupid as well with the double spy kill at the end to finish it off. That they don't even convert that push though. Like it was so sloppy from kind of both teams. It's like 3 situations like that TF2 Easy weren't even managing to push over the line. They had to get a couple of those in a row to even be able to finish it off.
I think we're lucky in the fact that we got the golden cap. We had an alien moment as well. We're just like he lives up to his name by just deciding to run the pyro solo Uber into water. Ams, how are you feeling about this push?
Yeah, I get PTSD watching it. It's effective. We were just talking about Fancy about how to counter it. And I'm not gonna give away the talks we had, but It's not as simple as it might seem to counter that, and it's like, at least for me, I don't know if I'm just bad, but for me, like hitting a pyro in Lost, whether you're like pushing or defending, or like trying to kill a pyro that's like pushing your point, it's hard, man, because he's like juggling you around and there's flames and you can't see stuff. Like it's not that easy to deal with. So I think it's since so many teams are doing it, like my team are definitely looking into like ways to counter it and to be ready for it. It's a pretty effective push, I think, though. We're never gonna do it because me and Loopy both don't like pyro that much.
So what you're telling me is that we need to bring Olga back to get some spice to your team.
Yeah, or Gazi. I was watching
Ooh.
Gazi's stream recently. His pyro is actually insane. It's like it made me want to get good on pyro. I like hopped on the Uncle Dane pop to play some pyro. I've seen that. This is firing, man.
How are we feeling about the second map on Reckoner? It was another like relatively close affair, but it honestly felt like this time around, at least for me, it felt like TF2 Easy were a little bit more in control for most of this. It kind of petered out towards the end as well.
Yeah, I think it didn't feel close watching it. I don't remember what the scoreline was. It was 1-2. Okay.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like 2-1. It felt like TF2 Easy were a bit more comfortable on that one.
We had another Navi spy moment here. I think this is the one that got clipped and posted to TFTV a million times, where he bumps like 4 players as well, and he just somehow manages to make his way behind and through, and he gets up, and then eventually, Juxta's just trying to heal his soldier, man. And yeah. I think honestly, this probably didn't end up mattering too much because you can sort of look at the round timer on the top. You can see there's only like 3 minutes left. But it's sort of, I mean, it definitely took the wind out of Forfence's sails there. I think you lose your medic this late into the game to a play like this, and it must be the most tilting thing in the world.
Yeah, that's hyper tilt. He got the self assist on that as well. Rare TF2 mechanic.
Yeah.
I don't understand what, like, does he not question that soldier? Like, why would that soldier just be standing there? Does it not like cross his mind like, oh, just a soldier standing here for no reason, just by the spawn door? It's like it's so weird to me, like how that works, or like how it's not obvious that it's a spy. But I guess it's like in the heat of the moment, sometimes you have a brain for it.
The Frenchies, they played a really close game. I think for me, the hardest team at the moment to place in Prem, one of them is Nati because I have just no idea. Like, the results have just been all over the place. But another one, I think, for me, is honestly the Frenchies. And I keep hearing all of the... It feels weird because the top Prem teams, every time I talk to them, they're all like, oh, these Frenchies, they're so good. And I watch them play. And it just doesn't feel... I don't know. Like, I look at Rons, I look at Brudgman, they're both really good. I look at QB, has his moments. But then, like, the rest of the team, there seems to be... I don't know how it feels when you play against some AMs, but there seem to be some very big sort of differences in how they want to play the game between Delhi and Alien. And hello?
I hear him.
Alright, let's see. I mean, oh.
I see our faces again.
I do see our faces.
Excellent. The stream looks like it's back up. Our webcams aren't on.
Okay.
Alright, keep it going, Wyndham. We'll just talk over this.
Alright, man. We're back. We had some issues. And Ams was talking about how easy it is to beat the Frenchies in scrims every single time. No big deal.
Yeah,
how are you feeling about these guys? You're going to end up playing them eventually. How close is it going to be? Do you think they're going to step up? What do they need to come back?
Yeah, I think they'll step up. I think they'll improve. I don't know how much of what I just said was missed, but I was saying it felt like weirdly easy. I didn't mean it in like a BM way, but it felt like easier than it should feel, right? I think they should be performing better than they have been performing with the players they have. I still think, I hate to say it, I really hate to say it, but I still think their weak point is their scouts. I think their scouts kind of turn up sometimes, and then sometimes it feels like the weaker part of the team, right? The one that's like kind of the most exploitable. But their scouts they're not bad, man. Like QB and Alien, they're both good scouts. Alien's been around for a while, and I always thought Alien's really good. So I think once they figure some stuff out, I reckon they'll be the team that they were meant to be. But for this season, it might be too late. So hopefully they stick around and keep improving, because I think this season, the curtains might kind of be closing for them if they don't step it up soon. I guess it'll depend a lot on how they perform against us in our official. And I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a good one, and I do think they have realistic players, and they should be really good.
Yeah, that game is coming up in week 6. It's gonna be next week. Yeah, they got honestly like looking at a schedule. They've got you guys next week. They've got this week. They've got sort of I think maybe they're what at least on paper is supposed to be one of the direct competitors in NOOBPANZER coming up. How do you feel about that matchup? Actually, it's coming up this week. Between the matchup between NOOBPANZER and Full Fence.
It's probably the most important game left for playoff implications, right? I think.
Probably no, because at the moment they're sitting. Full Fence is sitting 5th place, so I think yeah.
Yeah, Full Fence. I was kind of surprised at the start of the season when I was kind of asking the players engaging what they thought. That everyone was saying like Full Fence is going to be the 3rd place team, and I was like, hang on, but they were like 5th or 6th last season, and I don't think the players looked like massively upgraded. But yeah, at the start of the season, everyone was like super hyped about these guys, and then losing a map to Nati Noot, being unable to close the map that they probably should have had about against TF2 is making them look rough for the playoffs. And I think NOOBPANZER should be able to take that official as well. But I mean, there's always a chance. Like Full Fence came that close to beating TF2 so, or not beating, but taking that first map. So I mean, it's still going to be tight. We'll have to actually wait until the game to see, I suppose.
The other match we have on Thursdays in 2 days' time is going to be the legendary showdown between Mac and Danny. SHADOWWIZARDMONEYGANG versus SVIFT. Another huge matchup here. I think this is one where these guys they like to shit talk each other on Twitter, and it's pretty funny. And the matchup is finally coming. And who are we picking, Bumfries, here to try and take the dub?
I think it's genuinely very close. I'd still probably take the Mac team to win this one, but I would not be surprised at all if Swift won and Mac ends up in 8th, honestly.
Feels a bit disappointing, no, Ams. Have you played this Mac team a lot in scrims? How have they been performing? Because honestly, I feel like you look at the players, you look at the leadership, it doesn't feel like they should be this bad.
Yeah, I don't think we didn't scrim them like at all before our official. Pretty sure we might have played them like once, and we haven't scrimmed them much after either. I don't know why we just haven't really managed to book games against them. I don't know. Like it's good players, but to be honest, like this season's so competitive. There's so many good teams. I think they're performing pretty close to what I expected, honestly. But I always thought they have the potential to do really well. And I do think Mac is a really good leader. It's just the season's so competitive, you know. These teams are so good. This team is so capable of like doing upsets, and they're capable of performing really well. But I'm not surprised to see them losing to the teams that they've lost to. But I think they should be pretty comfy against Swift and Nati Noot if they're playing well, and Swift are performing to their usual standard. I think Mac team should win it. Like I said before, the Swift team has a lot of potential too. So it's just, it just goes back to like this season being super competitive and all these teams being really good. But yeah, I'm not surprised to see Mac team losing to the teams that they lost to.
The other game we have coming up this week is CSG. You guys, you're playing Nati Noot. How are you feeling about this game? You confident? You confident playing against these Zoomers?
Yeah, I'm confident against Nati Noot. They're okay though, so we can't be throwing. We gotta play clean, but I'm confident. I think we should roll them.
All right. How about you, Bumfries? You in agreement with Ams? How close is this game gonna be?
I mean, you never know with Nati Noot. It's like every single team you go up against, it's like, yeah, the team they go up against should win. But Nati Noot have been the upset geniuses since before the season even started. Obviously, that's how they got here. And I think the way they play looks solid. I think it's really nice that we have teams coming up now. Maybe it's because like Pugs were dead for so long, but the 8th place teams not the 8th place teams, because I don't think they'll finish 8th, but the bottom prem teams now are always like teams. They're teams that have been together for a while, and they've like come up from Div 1, like Duplo and SVIFT and Nati Noot. It's so much better than when you just had like 6 random pug players come together and form a team last second, and they're just like absolute garbage, and there's like no point in them playing the season. It's like really nice to see kind of actual up and coming teams. Like some players from Nati Noot, like their combined teams officials, they probably have less officials played than like singular players that they're playing against on the other team, but they've just actually managed to pull themselves up into Prem just from playing together and like building what do you call it, cooperation
Oh yeah.
with each other. It's like very, very cool.
I'm almost positive that AMS probably single-handedly has more officials played than the entirety of Nati Noot together.
It's possible. I have a lot.
I would not be surprised if that was the case. The final game we have coming up, which is supposed to be a week 5 game, it's not happening this week though. It's gonna be next week, apparently, sometime next week. We're not sure. It's the big one, of course. Witness TF2 Easy, the rematch, the showdown. It actually isn't a rematch of last season's finals, but it is a rematch of the Arcadia finals, and the season before that, VTF2L. We've got TF2 Easy versus Witness. This is the big one. How are we feeling about this? Is this going to be a close one like Arcadia, the last Arcadia game, or is it going to be like the middle Arcadia game, the upper bracket final Arcadia game, where it was kind of very one-sided for Witness? How are we feeling about this one when it eventually happens?
I think based on what I've seen recently, if I had to bet money on it, I'd say it's gonna be 5-0, 5-0 to Witness.
All right. I think. What about you, Bumfries? How are we feeling about this game?
I don't know at all. One of the things that I was gonna ask is how good Witness are recently, because I haven't actually seen any of their games this season. Haven't managed to catch them, but I think they've had most of the easy ones so far, so they've just been kind of powering through the teams they were expected to. But I don't know if it's been like clean that they can easily overthrow like TF2 Easy and etc. But I guess Ams has answered my question there. Like, if he's that confident, it's 5-0, 5-0. Because I have heard that TF2 Easy are in a rough patch as well. So yeah, maybe it's going to be more of a confident win for Witness, and I think it usually is online anyway. It's only really been at LANs that TF2 Easy have been contesting Witness, so that would make sense to me that Witness win this one out as well.
I think I tend to agree, to be completely honest. I think Witness have had some, I think, slower games than maybe you'd expect. They haven't been completely rolling every single official they played. I think a lot of their Metalworks official last week against the Frenchies was actually really close. I think Peppy mostly brought that down to the mids. They also had Captain playing instead of Domo, which may or may not be a big deal. I'm actually not too sure. Sil also in my chat complaining that his mouse wasn't working. But I mean, yeah, it feels like honestly that this should be a little bit of a dub. I think I'm in agreement that TF2 Easy at the moment with Yeehor without Gazzy, it feels like they're lacking that little bit of extra flair. Where kind of like in the past on the flank, Gazzy and Nubby together were crazy and insane, and they would run entire maps by themselves. But now it feels like the only real playmaker on that team is Nubby, and that's just such a burden to place on a singular player. And while Nubby can have nights where he's the best player in Europe, they also like has nights where he's just, playing Roamer in a top Prem team, which is good, but it's not. You're going to be the one playmaker in your team.
I mean, Yeehor can be that guy too, and he's been that guy in the past. I think I'd even maybe go the opposite way to say that they were more kind of, the Gazzy was more of like the dependable, just kind of team role player, whereas Yeehor's kind of further on the other direction of the axis. But the other thing to talk about as well, which I want to ask Amps, is if he thinks there's a big difference between Witness getting auto and TF2 Easy getting June. Does it feel any easier to play like versus that medic or?
Yeah, I think June is, you can see the inexperience sometimes when you play against them. Like, June is good. I think on this team, like in the Flick team, maybe it was like there was no expectations on them, so it was like less pressure, right? But I feel like in this team with all the expectations and like, they want to finish at least second, I'm sure, realistically, like more pressure on June, and I think that kind of shows. And at times, I think the inexperience is showing. But I think June is a good player. It's just I think Otto is way more experienced and just makes a lot less mistakes. But I think one thing actually that's worth considering for this matchup and just online for the foreseeable future anyway for Witness is that Otto has like these lag issues. And it was annoying to play against it because there was like that one spy moment with me where he lagged out of my backstab and just like in general, like you take an Uber into them and he's just gonna like glitch out of your like meat shot, which is annoying. You know, it's still probably worse for Otto himself. It's probably he's the one who probably suffers from it the most. And I think that's the reason for why Witness hasn't been as dominant in these games as they perhaps have been in previous seasons. But I'm still pretty comfortable or very confident that like they have a huge edge over TF2 Easy because they read TF2 Easy pretty well. I think like they kind of know all their stuff like pretty throughout. And I think TF2 Easy hasn't really changed that much. I hate to say it, but I think they're kind of the same team with different players, right? Like same game plan, different players. Arguably like downgrade players a little bit. So I think even though Otto is lagging, I think maybe that's something that could bring it a bit closer. The fact that Otto is like, probably suffering and dying more because he's lagging. But it's I kind of got lost there with the original question, which is I think Otto is a lot better, but June is showing promise to just maybe crumbling under the pressure a little bit sometimes.
How do you feel about the Soldier? I think because honestly, in the past, when we watch these games between these two teams, I think something that regularly it comes down to is I think there is a legitimate, like, pretty big skill gap between Pappy and Josh, just in terms of individual player potential or just ability. I think some of that, especially when we watch them online, I know Josh has some internet issues as well. He's not always playing on the best conditions. But just in general, I think one thing is how integral Josh is to the team as a whole. He's kind of the heart and the soul of that team. But he's just, I think, especially you watch that lower bracket finals versus League of Shadows, he did not have a good game. And some of that might be internet issues, but I think he's one of the people I'm looking at. I really need to see this guy step up if they want to take it to Witness seriously and in sort of any respect. And obviously the land buff helps. I think that's where we've seen the best results from them against Witness. But yeah, we'll have to see. That I think I'm not sure. Do we have any further discussions? Any more points we want to bring up?
I think you're probably right about the soldiers duos. Like the Roma matchup is much closer than the pocket one for both those teams, and I think you're right also that Josh is like the heart of that team than there is a heart of Witness. Everyone on Witness kind of has their own like long-term experience, and it's kind of probably more evenly shared throughout the team who's calling what. This is just completely a guess, obviously having not played for either of them, but I definitely think that players like Syl will have more to say to Pappy than like Nubby will to Josh in terms of how the team is actually playing. So that could be one of the differences. And yeah, obviously, as you say, Witness a massive land chokers as well. So
yeah, we'll have to see. Maybe eventually one day when we finally get another European LAN, one day, hopefully, we'll get to see the matchup again, because that was, I mean, their games have been very exciting. I think maybe we're going to round it out for now, though. We've kind of covered everything there is to cover. Week 5, obviously. We'll be back in 2 days' time with a double header. There'll be SHADOWWIZARDMONEYGANG on, I believe, TFTV2, then Full Fence and NOOBPANZER on TFTV. Then Sunday, of course, CSG versus Nati and Noot. Don't forget, actually, did briefly announce it yesterday. There was an event thing that was created on TFTV and then immediately managed to delete itself somehow. But we have officially got the results from the last season's ETF2L Season 43 award polls. So we will be doing an episode of Fully Charged Special Edition tomorrow, or not tomorrow, rather next week. Next week, probably on Monday, maybe on Tuesday, but probably on Monday, where we will be going through, revealing the winners of Season 43. But I think with that, any final shout out, Ams, Bumfries?
Shout out to my team. That's it. Shout out to you guys for doing these things every week. It's cool.
No shout outs at all.
Oh, I have no funny shout outs this time. I think think shoutouts to my bed. I'm gonna head there soon. I'm excited. But yep, that's it for us for now. Come back in 2 days' time. More TF2 action. Goodbye. Good night.